Hey everybody, I'm Mikey Andersen, and this is Fantasy Avenue, where each week we talk about everything you need to know in the world of fantasy football. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Avenue, your road to fantasy football victory. I'm your host, Mikey Andersen, and this is the Week 3 review. Pretty crazy week we had. A lot of close games, a lot of upsets. I was at my friend's house watching, and we were going back and forth. A lot of interesting games. So we're gonna start right into how we're gonna do it through these episodes. We're gonna look at kind of the surprises, I guess. Reacting to last week, the biggest upsets, the biggest studs and duds in fantasy. And then we're gonna look at the top waiver ads that you should be picking up for your team, and finally end with some injury news coming into this week. Now, this episode is coming out Sunday morning, and a little side note, hopefully you guys weren't like me. I was not fully aware that there was a morning game going on today between the Saints and the Vikings. And if you know fantasy-relevant players on those teams, Alvin Kamara is one of them. He was also questionable all week. So coming into this morning, about 8 a.m. Mountain Time, I check my team to find that Alvin Kamara was pronounced out for the game, but the game had already started. So hopefully none of you guys were stuck in that situation with me. That was pretty sucky waking up to find I couldn't even change my lineup. But always good to be aware of a London game because, yeah, London games. Yep. Okay, so let's hop into Week 3 review. So from last week. The big storyline, Lamar Jackson. I'll talk about him a little bit more when we go to quarterback studs, but wow. Like he is controlling the number one quarterback spot. He's averaging 33 points per game, and he's dominating every single week he plays. He's having good passing games and great rushing games. Again, last week, 107 yards and a rushing touchdown on 11 attempts. That's a good game for a running back. He's compiling that with his quarterback numbers, and he's doing great. Other storylines I kind of want to talk about. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll get to Trevor Lawrence, but wow. Blowing out the Chargers 38-10. Jeez, we have a contender down there. The Buffalo-Miami game, that was a crazy ending. Miami, another contender. There's some surprising teams this year. There's some teams that I did not see coming, and, we'll be on the lookout. The Colts get their win against the Chiefs, and I saw an interesting thing this morning. The Colts blitz 10% of the time that game, and they won. The previous 2 weeks, I think it was the Chargers. I can't remember the first team the Chiefs played. Let me look real quick. The Cardinals. The Cardinals blitzed over 50% of the time, and the Chargers blitzed like 30% of the time, 28, I believe. And the Chiefs won both those games. It seems to be when Patrick Mahomes has rush in his face, he does his Mahomes magic and gets it out to a one-on-one, and the Chiefs win. But if you're playing blanket coverage, right, you're dropping a lot of guys into coverage, not rushing a lot of people, Patrick Mahomes gets a little flustered and doesn't know where to go with the ball. So this isn't fantasy relevant. Patrick Mahomes is still the 4th overall quarterback in fantasy, but it is relevant overall, okay. Interesting to know. The Chiefs aren't immortal. Other news, the Cowboys, Cooper Rush, that came out of nowhere. He's not averaging a lot of points, but he's getting the dubs. He's doing what he needs to do to win the Cowboys games. So, what can you ask for as a Cowboy fan? I'm not a Cowboy fan, but yeah, still. Yeah. So I think that's my review. Let's see. It was an interesting week of football, to say the least. I'm a Bronco fan. I want to talk about the Broncos real quick. 11-10. Man, Broncos defense is lights out. Broncos offense, I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, it was very similar to previous years. It looked quite similar to other teams in the league, like the Cardinals. I was watching that game as well. The Cardinals are sputtering this year pretty badly. They have a good quarterback and still can't really do much. It's interesting. So just stuff to keep an eye out on. Generally better teams have better fantasy players, generally. So it's just interesting to see that. All right, let's get into some studs and duds from the week. Starting with the quarterbacks. We already talked about Lamar Jackson. He is a beast. Top 5 goes Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Josh Allen, and then Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, they're finding their form. They're doing well. Trevor Lawrence, on the other hand, he's playing great. He's showing his potential. He's showing what he can do when he just steps back and throws the ball. He's only thrown 1 pick this season so far, only been sacked twice, which is incredible. Doesn't really run the ball a lot, but has good pocket presence. The Jags like to throw the ball. They've thrown it 30-plus times each game, and he's showing that he can do that. Right now, he's the 11th overall ranked quarterback in fantasy. So if you're looking for a bench quarterback, he's not a bad option. Let's get into running backs. Running backs. Number 1, Khalil Herbert. I don't know where that came from. He's not even added in my league. 20 rushing attempts for 157 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. After 2 weeks of 9 attempts for 45 and 4 attempts for 38. So, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I don't think anybody in our whole league had him and saw that coming. But there you go. Khalil Herbert. That's a very good waiver, and I'll talk about him later. A good waiver option right there. If you're looking for a guy with obviously some big play potential, like he's shown, yeah, he can be that guy. Top 5 of the running backs. Khalil, Derrick Henry, showing he can do what he can do. He had a good game, carried the ball. Derrick Henry amount of times, 20 for 85, and got himself a touchdown. Had a great receiving game. The first time in a game this season that he's caught the ball, and he caught it 5 times for 58 yards. So maybe they need to get him a little bit more involved in the pass game. I don't really know. The Titans are a mystery team. They're really struggling to find their flow. Number 3, Jamal Williams. He had a great game. 20 attempts for 87 rushing yards. I believe DeAndre Swift is out. I'm not 100% positive, but it would lead me to believe. Number 4, Devin Singletary. Kind of a boom game. He went 8 points in the first week, 4, and then 24. And that was all just on his receiving. He had 9 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. He still only got 9 attempts on the ground for 13 yards. So really not a guy you want to look at there, but interesting if he keeps that up. And to round out the top 5, Saquon Barkley. What a season he's having. It's awesome. It's awesome as a football fan to see Saquon come back from his years of injury and problems and get 32, 11, and 22 points. So still a bit inconsistent, but he's showing he can have good games, he can have great games, and he can go basically win your week. He can get 32. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I watched him in college, in the NFL. He's doing amazing. Just happy to see him return back to his former form of Saquon-esque play, right? Okay, now we're going to go to receivers. This was wild. I'll read the top 6, and this is crazy. We have Devontae Smith, Mac Collins, Marquise Brown, Zay Jones, Russell Gage, Chris Olave. Only one of those players in my league was picked up before this week. So the receivers, this was an off week for a lot of the star receivers. The first receiver I see who was a star in the top was CeeDee Lamb. Going down the list, the next one, A.J. Brown. But there was a lot of guys. There were some guys getting 10 points, 8 points, like Mike Williams. They're down in the 60th overall receiver range last week. So it was kind of a weird week. But those are 5 guys: Devontae Smith, Matt Collins, Marquise Brown, who is probably picked up in your league, Zay Jones, who's on injured reserve, Russell Gage, and Chris Olave. Chris Olave, I would say, out of any of them, Devontae Smith, he's probably taken in your league, I would guess. But Devontae Smith, Chris Olave is the guy, I think. If you're going to say any of these guys that you should keep your eyes out and might be available coming into next week, I would say Chris Olave. Let's see here. We're going to go now to tight ends. Some tight end studs from last week. Let's get into it. Number 1, Mark Andrews with 28.9 points. Great game. followed by David Njoku, Travis Kelce, Tyler Conklin, and Jelani Woods. Now, Jelani Woods is a guy that I was saying watch at the start of the season. A guy coming into the year, he didn't score a single point in the first 2 games, and now comes with 2 catches and 2 touchdowns. So, I don't know. It was a very surprising thing. He is honestly the 3rd tight end. And I was saying kind of watch him. So I would not pick him up. But still, continue to watch him, see if he gets a bigger role in the offense. He's showing when he catches the ball, good things happen. So we'll see. Tyler Conklin, again, he's kind of coming out of nowhere on this Jets team. He's consistently scoring a good amount of points. I like him. He's a guy to keep an eye on. I probably pick him up at the end of this week, depending on what my tight end, Kyle Pitts, does. Kyle Pitts is having a wildly inconsistent year so far. 3, 3, and 13. So I'm going to see what he does. Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, obviously, they're ballers. And David Njoku, he's had 1.6 points and then went off for 23 points. So I like consistency from the tight end spot. So personally, I wouldn't really pick up any of these guys I'm naming until they show they're more consistent. Conklin is the only guy that I think has shown consistency, but it's always interesting to watch that because even Travis Kelce, he's just consistent to a higher extent. He scores 26, 10, and 17. Mark Andrews is consistent to a higher percent, 10, 25, 28. So they're having great games every game, where some guys just get 10 points every game. That is still good from a tight end perspective. I've lost weeks this year. I've already lost games this year based on my tight end just choking, getting 1 catch, and I lose by 3 points. If you have an okay game, I would have won the game. So it's what you want to find, consistency from the tight end spot. Let's move on real quick. I'm just going to look real quick at defensive kickers. The Eagles defense, wow, they're playing lights out this year. I'm not starting them this week. I have the Broncos defense who are also playing lights out. But the Eagles defense, if they're available, pick them up because they are balling. Let's move into some busts from last week. Some guys that, I'm just going to, how I do this, I explained this last week a little bit, but I just go onto my NFL Fantasy app and I just scroll down to kind of the lower ends and I look for big names. So guys that should have been scoring way better, right? I'm scrolling all the way down. Some busts at the quarterback. Here's some examples. We have Russell Wilson with 9 points, Justin Herbert with 11, and Kyler Murray with 12. Justin Herbert, off games are going to happen. Keep your hype to him. Kyler Murray, he's the 8th ranked quarterback in fantasy this year, and people are scared of him. So if you have Kyler Murray, I would say keep starting him, but it's always nervous to see a top quarterback on a bad team like the Cardinals because a lot of a quarterback's success in the league is shown on winning, but a lot of quarterback success in fantasy is shown on how much they can throw the ball. So it's not necessarily bad to have a good quarterback on a bad team if it means they're coming from behind and throwing the ball a lot. Now, Russell Wilson, he has just been a fail this year, 17, 13, and 9. He's done nothing to show that he is a viable quarterback for fantasy. He's nothing to show that he can score points, win games. I don't want to say, he's really struggling. Honestly, at this point, I would not say drop him, just flat out drop him, but I myself am looking for other options at quarterback because I do not feel confident starting him at all. I have Lamar Jackson in this league, so I wouldn't start anybody anyway. I wouldn't start anybody else anyway. But it's weird, We'll see what happens. Now we're gonna move into running backs. The running back duds of the week. I'm going down the list. I'm looking for anybody under 10 points with big names. Javonte Williams with 9. He's not having an insane fantasy year so far. He hasn't scored a single touchdown is I think his main problem. I don't know why the Broncos don't hand him the ball more. He's still so electric. He breaks so many tackles. He's only had 15 attempts in a game. That's his max. He hasn't gotten into the higher ranges because I still like to split with Melvin Gordon, which I don't agree with at all. So Javonte Williams, I wouldn't lose my faith in him quite yet. He is an insane running back. If they just hand him the ball, they will do good. So keep him in your starting lineup. Keep your faith. Those points will happen. A couple other guys. Jonathan Taylor scores 12.1 points. And this is surprising to me because they won that game against the Chiefs. And I expected, when I looked originally after the win, that he would have a lot of points. Because in a win against a good other team, it wasn't necessarily high scoring. But if a worse team beats a better team, I expect the worst team's best player to have done well, right? And he didn't. So that was surprising. Another player, Najee Harris. Now, there was a lot of hype coming into this year, and I didn't really agree with it just because of his carry load. It completely depends on his carry load. He's had 10 attempts, 15 of 15, and he is the 21st overall ranked running back. Like, that's exactly what I expected to happen. If he doesn't get the ball, he doesn't do well. There's nothing really else. And he scored touchdowns. So think about what I just said, and think about how he's had touchdowns. Now go back to somebody like Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is the 17th ranked, so he's better than Najee Harris, and he hasn't scored a single touchdown, and he has less attempts this year. So purely on that, purely on average, and purely on touchdown dependency, you call it, like how dependent must a player be on the touchdowns he scores? Javonte Williams is not that touchdown dependent. He can score without it. Najee Harris is carry and touchdown dependent, and when he's not getting it, he doesn't play well. So I don't want to say that I saw this coming, but I saw this coming. Let's go to wide receiver busts. Now, it was a crazy week for the wide receivers. We're looking for anybody under 10 points, probably. Anybody who really struggled, big names. But like as I said earlier, the amount of high-named players, or the amount of low-named players in the top 5, every single player in the top 5, I was saying, besides Hollywood Brown, who isn't even that insane of a receiver, every single one of them was not picked up in my league. So it was a weird week for receivers. The two guys I really want to talk about, though, are Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. Two absolute studs. Two guys who have they've gone for Tyreek Hill are 17 points in the first week, which is really good. 42 in the second week, insane. And then he gets 5.3. Justin Jefferson is kind of on that same path. He goes 39.4 first week, 10.8. So each of them had a good game and a great game. And then Justin Jefferson follows up with 4.4. I don't know. Both of them, at the time of this recording, have already played this week. Justin Jefferson on the morning game I was talking about against the Saints, and he's doing great in that game. And Tyreek Hill on Thursday night against the Bengals, he scored 25. So each of them are showing that I think it was just an off week, but just something worth talking about. Moving quick into tight end busts, and then we'll get into some worthy waiver wire choices for next week. Tight end bust is a little hard because I'm just looking for anyone tight ends don't score a lot to begin with, but any high-ranked tight ends who are scoring low points. The main guys I'm seeing right now are Gerald Everett, Los Angeles Chargers tight end, who burst on the scene with a couple 14 and 13-point games after basically not being drafted in any leagues, right? And then he goes for 4.5. Disappointing. Got some Kyle Pitts aura about him, who I do want to say, I want to bring attention to Kyle Pitts. He had a 13-point game. That doesn't make up for his 2 3.9-point games, but he shows he can still catch the ball, I guess. And then my final bust, I think my final bust for this week over any position we'll talk about is Darren Waller. 5.2-point fantasy perspective. From a fantasy perspective, every Raider player scares me due to the fact that their offense is just so inconsistent. Raider pass catchers like Devontae Adams. He's not having a bad year, but he's not Packer Devontae Adams yet. Hunter Renfrow, he's just struggling. He's injured. He's struggling. Darren Waller, inconsistent. Raider players make me a little nervous, especially in that passing attack that has just been so inconsistent. So we'll see today against a great Broncos pass defense if these guys like Darren Waller can turn it up and play well, how they usually play, maybe get the Raiders their first win, or if it's going to be a different story. Now we're going to move on to some top waiver ads from each position and finish off with injury news. I'll go position by position, name one or two players, just guys if you're desperate, I need players now mode, or even guys you could trade for, guys with high value that you could trade with good value, just guys like that. Quarterback, I'll start it off with Trevor Lawrence. He's having a good year. He's a good backup, 11th overall quarterback. He'll be a good backup for you. And at least on NFL Fantasy, he's only rostered 64.3% of the time. So that's a lot of leagues that he's available in. And he's a guy that can be a consistent backup for you, at least so far. I don't like to say consistent 3 weeks into the year. Maybe not consistent, but a viable backup. A backup that can get you the points you need. Running backs. Khalil Herbert, he's got to be the guy you talk about, purely based on his 130-point game. Very inconsistent, obviously, but, I mean, if you need a flex player, your main guy's hurt, you need a boomer bust pick, he can win you your week. He probably did. If anybody was starting him last week, he probably won him a week. So he's a guy to keep your eye on there. Wide receivers, good picks. Now, I was saying I was talking about how the top 5 were all guys that you haven't really heard of, or that I hadn't really heard of in my leagues picked up. So you can go back. I'm not going to talk about any of them again, but you can go back and look at Chris Olave, see if they're open. You can just listen to that segment and see if any of those guys are available, because those are really the guys that you would want so far. There's some big names, DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin, who are available in quite a bit of leagues because they're not playing amazing, but they're still good players. Honestly, if I were you, you don't want to be dropping guys already. It's not a good choice to fully commit on dropping somebody like that super quickly. I would keep those guys in. I would give them a couple. I usually like to go my first month. I like to go the first month without really making any huge changes to my lineup, not dropping any of my guys to draft, because this is a little bit like I like to trust the guys I draft. I would rather trust my draft than trust the chances I took, right? So I'd rather trust the guys, the lists I made, the predictions, the guys I drafted ahead of other guys based on what ifs. So there'll be guys, right? There's guys like James Robinson that completely just undid what I just said. They are guys, I didn't even draft James Robinson in any of my leagues, but now I have him in, I believe, 3. I've traded for him. I love how hyped he is. The value I got for him, I got James Robinson for Melvin Gordon. So basically, they're both in similar situations. Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, and James Robinson and Travis Etienne. It's that starter backup kind of both splitting. So I basically, in my eyes, I traded Melvin Gordon for Jamal Williams in a sense, right? I traded the backup guy for the starter guy. So if you can get guys like that, right, that's all for it. But overall, I like to keep with my original draft strategy and find the bus before I commit to making changes in ways, right? All right. So let's move into. We had a little spiel there about receivers. Let's go quick into some tight end waivers, and then we'll get into injury news. Tight end waivers, I've talked about them already. This will be quick. Tyler Conklin and David Njoku. They had good weeks last week. David Njoku, he's a guy, if you need him, get him. But Tyler Conklin has been consistent. He has 4, 6, and 8 catches. He's scored touchdowns. He's had receiving yards and high at 84 yards. He's just having a good breakout tight end season from a guy not a lot of us has heard of. He's a 4th-ranked tight end. Number 2 are Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. Not saying that Tyler Conklin is on the level of those two, but he is the next tier down. And that's always good for a waiver tight end, obviously. Here is our injury report. Fantasy relevant injuries coming into week 4. I've found this on the NFL app. I'm just going down the list game by game, finding players I feel like are fantasy relevant that you'll want to keep your eye on. First, Alvin Kamara. We all already missed that train. Hopefully you guys took him off yesterday, seeing that he was questionable. But that one hurts me. I'm not doing good in that league to begin with, but that one hurts. I've talked about him a little bit already, But the Lions in general, they have DeAndre Swift out. Amon-Ra St. Brown is out. DJ Chark is out. The Lions against the Seahawks, it's going to be interesting to see if the Lions are a real deal offense without their star players. I don't blame the Lions if they lose this week. They're 1-2, and they feel like they should be 2-1 or 3-0 with how their offense has been playing. Their defense is struggling. So as a Lion supporter, I'm not feeling that great about coming into this week with their offense really being their only chance to win a game and it being pretty run down overall. Other fantasy relevant players that are out, and this is one good thing. There's not a lot this week. I saw a post on Instagram. Also, there will be an Instagram coming out soon, Fantasy Avenue Instagram. Hopefully we can get more kind of listeners through that. We'll be posting highlight clips, right? Just clips that I think you should listen to, right? Little tidbits of information that I think you'll be interested in listening to. But anyway, what I found on Instagram, I saw a list of notable inactives, and there really wasn't a lot that I thought from a fantasy perspective. I was like, oh, that'll be tough. Alvin Kamara, really the only guy I've seen who was questionable coming into the week and ended up not going. There's a lot of guys who are questionable, a lot of big names, like Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox on the Bills, Cordell Patterson, who came in questionable with iffy injuries and aren't playing. So pretty small injury report this week, which is good. The main thing was that morning game. I'll be talking about that all through today with my friends up till next week. But yeah, so hope you enjoyed the episode. That'll be it. We'll figure out, this will probably be the format of how the episodes go, with some highlights from last week, best players, and looking towards next week. But yeah, so I hope some of these tips worked out. The Instagram will be up and running hopefully by next week. Get some more followers through that. I'll post little tidbits, little sound bites to listen to. And yeah, so hope you have a good day of football. Hope this helped, and I'll see you next time on Fantasy Avenue.